It's been more than a year since President Trump started a trade war with China when he imposed tariffs on a long list of Chinese goods imported to America. The president complained that Chinese trading practices were harming American businesses. China retaliated by levying its own tariffs on several American products, including coal, soybeans, and also on parts used to make items like TVs and washing machines. And ultimately, the price of those tariffs, which act like a tax, will be passed down to consumers. High-level negotiations between the U.S. and China collapsed last month. And since then, both countries have increased their tariffs. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow recently admitted the U.S. will suffer because of the tariffs. But President Trump is standing by the policy, and on June 1st, he tweeted that, quote, "When you are the piggy bank nation that foreign countries have been robbing and deceiving for years, the word tariff is a beautiful word indeed." Joshua Meltzer is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., specializing in global trade law. It's nice to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Okay, let's start with the tweet. The president frames it as robbing and deceiving in terms of a trade imbalance. Does he have a point there?
Well, there's certainly a significant trade imbalance between the United States and China. So, for instance, in 2018, if you look at the goods trade between the US and China, the US essentially imported about $800 billion more of goods from China than it exported. If you factor in services, though, which we need to do, often we don't talk about services, but the US actually exports more services globally than it imports. That is reduced quite significantly to around sort of $600 billion, but it's still a very large number. So certainly there's been an imbalance in the trading relationship between the US and China.
So is tariff a beautiful word that solves that problem?
Yeah, so we need to be very clear. Tariffs, really, we need to think about as taxes. That's all they are. They're simply a tax that's placed on the border rather than a tax that's placed domestically. And generally, consumers and businesses pay for that.
If the tariff is then imposed on the border, that means that anybody who's purchasing any of those goods is actually the person who's paying that tax, right?
Yeah.
So as the president crows about tariffs, it's sort of like, but aren't we the people paying that tax?
Absolutely. And the president fundamentally does not understand tariffs or trade policy because he keeps saying that this is something that others are paying and that it's revenue for the United States. And it is revenue, but the fact is that those prices are getting passed on to businesses and consumers.
So the only person you're really hurting is yourself for that side of the tariff. Now, if you're bailing out, say, farmers who can't sell their soybeans now to China, consumers in the United States pay that too, right? I mean, if I'm a taxpayer, I'm helping pay off the bailout.
No, that's right. Consumers are being hit in so many multiple directions, it's almost hard to kind of keep track of it because they're increasingly going to be hit by higher prices in groceries, higher prices when they go to Walmart, higher prices on all the goods and services that they purchase on a daily basis. They are also essentially, their tax money is now going to bail out the agriculture sector because their exports are being hit by Chinese retaliation as a result of the tariffs that were put onto Chinese imports.
Is there a short fix, or is it just that the China and the United States has to negotiate a deal?
They do need to negotiate a deal. And to be clear, the president's concern with China is correct in that China has certainly developed an economic structure and a way of engaging in international trade, which raises very significant and real concerns. So we are going to, the question then is, are we in for a prolonged sort of trade war with China? And do we end up with tariffs that are going to be in there for the long term, and do we need to adjust to that? Or is this actually a tool which is going to be effective in the end in getting China to reform and we can unwind the tariffs? I'm personally sceptical that there is an end game here at this point. The two countries and the two presidents seem very far apart, but certainly, I mean, that's sort of where we would like to be heading eventually.
Joshua Meltzer from the Brookings Institution. Nice to have you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.